we dive into the Yontiv of Pesach. Believe it or not, we're almost there. Seems like this was the longest winter in the world, and therefore, like, wow, yeah, we're finally there, and hopefully the weather will soon cooperate. And the question is Pesach cleaning. Pesach cleaning is one of those things that, people dread. Anyone, you know, many are like, what do you mean? Pesach cleaning, we're done. The kitchen's been turned over. We're already cooking out of the Pesach kitchen for the last month. And the question is, as much as we know, minhagim are very, very chashiv. In the Mishnah Berurah, particularly in Hilchos Pesach, writes one should never belittle a minhag. And over there, he's talking about crazy minhagim, painting walls, scraping walls, extreme things. He says it's a minhag, we leave it, says the Mishnah Berurah. Okay. But when it comes to cleaning for Pesach, we have to be cognizant. Is there a cost? Minhagim are beautiful, 100%. Do they make sense? We'll figure it out. Full svarim are in on figuring out the minhagim. I think it's known. You take the word minhag and you scramble the letters. What do you have? You get Gehenim. When you mess with minhagim, Ramosha Feinstein famously was being Mesader Kedushin. And there was an issue. And they came to Ramosha to ask him what to do. And in the conversation, they said, Rebbe, it's only a minhag. Moshe said, a minhag? Tell me it's a derabanan, I'll be mekel, no problem. It's a minhag. With a minhag, you have to be very careful. The Chassam Sofer famously writes, a minhag has a din of a neder, has a din of a daraisa. Okay, but with all that withstanding, let's understand what's going on when it comes to Pesach cleaning. And most importantly, and it's been made famous originally by Rav Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg, afterwards from Rav Gissinger, who got up, big rabbanim, and they got up and they saw a problem. What's the problem? Rabbi, let me clean. Let it be screen cleaning. What does it bother you? Well, if it wouldn't bother you, it wouldn't bother me. If it wouldn't bother your husband and children, it wouldn't bother anyone. But if you're walking to the Leil Seder, and yes, it starts late at night, and yes, by the time you get the kids settled, and the pillows, and the kiddush, and by the time everything's said and done, yes, it's late at night, and you're falling off your face. Why? Because what were you doing for the last who knows how long? Scrubbing and cleaning, and yeah, it's for Pesach, it's for Hashem, it is. But what happened to your Seder? Rav Gissinger wrote, and I'll read you a few of his words in a moment, that we're sacrificing a Leil Seder, the night that we're supposed to be giving over to our children, the Messiah. There's a din on Yontif of Simcha. You have to be happy. And if the average person, when they hear the word Pesach, like, oh no, not yet, give us some time, Rabbi, let's keep Purim, we're not ready for the Pesach cleaning story. That means that Pesach is evoking the wrong emotion. We're supposed to be looking forward to it. We're supposed to be able to walk into a Seder, rested, rejuvenated, and ready to come out of Mitzrayim and not fall off our face. And at this point, many say, okay, I'm the woman. I take care of it. My husband will be rested. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. Women have the same chiyuv on the Leil Seder. They got to drink the daled kaises. They got to eat the matzah. They got to do the whole 9 yards. Okay, and Mirz Hashem, at probably in 2 weeks' time, we're going to talk about what actually is the chiyuv, which also is a different problem. People think you got to drink. Kol hakais. They have a kais like this. The first cup, they down 12% alcohol kais. But after that, she falls asleep on the couch in Kol Tov Seder. That's beautiful. No, not really. Maybe if it was a perm suit, that would be nice. But at the Seder, you just missed the whole mitzvah. Or the first kais, they're busy drinking the whole thing. By the time the second kais, you're like, oh my gosh, taking a sip. It's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah d'oraisa. The third kais, forget about it. The fourth kais, like, I have leftovers from the third, They have a chiyuv like we have a chiyuv. Men and women have the same exact chiyuv on the daled kaises. So we're going to begin from the cleaning. And hopefully, b'siyata d'shmaya, if we have the right mindset from the beginning, what we are doing, how we are doing it, then we could eventually get to the Seder appropriately. And I'll give one more disclaimer. Many women are going to say, husband, I don't care what you learned. Very nice, the rabbi said. Very nice, he quoted Rav Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg. Yeah, Gadol, big tzitzis, I got it. Quoted Rav Gissinger. Yeah, he took over Lakewood, I understand. But listen, I'm doing what I'm doing. Leaving me alone. Like someone told me, we spoke about that Mishlach Manos does not need to have 2 brachos. Has to be 2 minim. So a woman came to her husband with her Mishlach Manos. And the husband said, oh no, it's what's the problem? She said, it's only one bracha. I said, no, it's okay. It's two different items. What do you mean it's okay? That's not what we do. We do two brachas. Woman, I understand. Nostalgic two brachas. We came from kindergarten and we came through elementary school, and we're not sure which year, which motor. We're still trying to track her down. That proliferated this two bracha business, but it doesn't exist. So I understand people might want to hold on to their nostalgic beliefs of what they want to do. However, if it's coming from a place and if a woman realizes what she's doing is extra, do it. Clean it, scrub it, the whole thing. What you're doing is extra. It gives a little bit of a different mindset. Hopefully, it takes the anxiety, it takes the fear. What if I don't get to it? So you won't get to it. So you won't clean the windows. They're fine. They're fine. I understand. It would be nicer if the windows were cleaned once a year. I agree. But it's fine. With a different attitude, I believe people could just be a little bit calmer when they do. So even if you're going to do what you do, hopefully with a little bit of a different attitude, we'll get there. So let's begin. We'll begin with a basic halacha, and then we'll circle back around and read some words of a beautiful letter that Rav Gissinger penned. I'm not sure actually if he penned it or if it was a speech that was transcribed. Either way, it's the same thing. But the basic halacha is as follows. We're going to break down all types of chametz into two categories. Two categories is going to be all the chametz in our house, and everything's going to fit into category A or category B. And that's how we're going to conquer the entire house. We're going to have something smaller than a kazayas, and we're going to have something that is larger than a kazayas. Okay, what's a kazayas? A kazayas is, I don't know, so big, a kazayas. Something that is smaller than a kazayas. The halacha is, of course, you can't have in your house on Pesach. However, says the Mishnah Berurah, a startling fact. Erev Pesach shechal liyos b'Shabbos. When's the last time it happened? I think it was 2-3 years ago, if I remember correctly. Pesach on a Friday. Something like that. 2 years ago. Beautiful. So says Mishnah Berurah, what do? You got to have your Shabbos Suda. You have to have bread. You can't eat matzah Erev Yantif. So what do? Oh, no, wrong. It was a matzah Shabbos. Same thing. Same difference. Even better, actually. Even better. Perfect. So what do? You have to have your Shabbos Suda. So you have to have bread. So people are sitting there with their, I'm sure they were sold the pre-bagged challah rolls. So you can eat the challah roll with your head inside the bag. So the crumbs go into the bag and then you can just take it out. And after you take a deep breath, don't flush it down the toilet. You're going to clog the toilet, but don't put it in the garbage bin. Walk to the river and throw it in or something. What does the Mishnah Berurah say to do? Says Mishnah Berurah, eat. But now your tablecloth is full of crumbs. Says Mishnah Berurah, take your tablecloth, be mina'er, shake it off. Your tablecloth, your crumbs, will fall now on the floor. The crumbs on the floor are going to be mitunaf ksas, a little bit dirty. And then he says, you're done. You're good to go. So the Chavetz Chaim at his little seder, when he took off his shoes to have some cheiras, you know what his feet were rubbing on the floor? Some challah crumbs. And it's perfectly fine. Because when something is smaller than a kazayis, as long as it's metunov ksas, it is not a problem. And I'll read you the words because it sounds wild. It sounds absolutely crazy. So I'll read you the words of Mishnah Berurah. This is in Taf Mem Beis, Sivkot and Lamed Gimel. Be'emes yish machlokes ben a poskim said that das harbi poskim that filu pachs min kazayis tarch beer. Says Mishnah Berurah, many poskim hold if it's less than kazayis, you have to get rid of it. But says Mishnah Berurah, v'davka ksheroi lachila ksas. Aval mahaya mitunov ksas upachos mikazayis ein tzarech levayer lekule alma. What's wrong?
He had dirt floors.
Slow. I'm aware about his dirt floors. Rav Steinberg also was aware of his dirt floors. We're going to get to all of that. So says Mishnah Berurah, if it's mitunov ksas, it's not a problem. Very good. So yes, it's true. What's being mentioned is that he had dirt floors. So his challah crumbs were mitunov ksas. Our floors, as I one time was at someone's house and it was Friday night, I took off my hat. I said, where can I put down my hat? He said, go to my study and put it on the floor. I said, put it on your floor? He said, don't worry about it. It's cleaner than the tables. I went to the study and no one was looking. I bent down. Oh my, it's much cleaner than the tables. Okay? So you're right. If our floors are cleaner than our utensils, then yes, it's true. Then your crumbs on the floor might not be mitunov ksas. I agree. But certainly the crumbs behind your couch, and there's crumbs under the couch and inside the couch and behind the fridge and under the oven, and in all the millions of places that we're sitting and sweating and spraying cleaning agents into every crack and crevice to make sure that no dog, if a dog gets near my couch, it will die from the scent. That's certainly not necessary. Because once it's mitonov ktsas, it's fine. That's one level. That's if it's smaller than a kazayas. Great. So, sorry? I just can't see it through the camera.
Each piece is smaller than kazayas, or like would that be all the pieces combined?
If it's, I mean, little piece behind the cows, a bunch of Cheerios are less than a kazayas, and therefore you don't have to worry about them. Oh, so. We didn't go anywhere. Everyone's jumping to just throw the bread on the floor. We mentioned the Mishnah Berurah says, if it's mitonov ksas, it's not a problem. Wonderful. Next level is larger than a kazayas. So now if it's larger than a kazayas, now you have a problem. Why do you have a problem? Because says the Paiskim, if you have a bread lying behind your couch, a piece of bread, you might eat it. We have a chash, you might eat it. Which everyone here is wondering, okay. Says in Mishnah Berurah, so what do you need now? It has to be not ro'i la'achilas kelef. So that level exists. It's not a mistake. There is a level that you need your, death detergent sprays, which by the way, I think they're all edible for animals these days, but I'm not getting involved in that. But either way, that's when you need all those sprays. But that's at the level that the chametz is larger than a kazayis. So now, before we even go further, if we were to now just think openly, I know it's hard. We have to, get rid of all the trauma of our youth. If we were to think openly about all the areas of our house, I don't think anyone has pieces larger than anxiety. You might say, yeah, what do you mean? You never know. Kids throw a cookie behind the couch. It's true. I showed up at Pesach one time to a hotel. Everything's cleaned. Everything's great. Why I was moving the furniture in a hotel? Yeah, a little bit strange. Okay, with the kid, with the crib and whatnot. Okay, I pull away the thing and a full package of cookies. Okay, it's true, and they were in the packaging, so they were not matunaf at all. Oh, Shiloh, who owns them? You rented the room, okay. But the bottom line is, so yes, you certainly have to make sure. You have to do something. No one ever said do nothing. But the level that is necessary is to ensure that A, there's nothing larger than a kazayis. And if it is, it's not royal achila, which I'm aware is not so relevant. And B, is that smaller than a kazayis little matunaf, which means as soon as you do your sweep under your couch and behind the couch a little bit, and in case you can't get there, then you take a little spray and spray there, because then whichever way you look at it, if it's a little bit there, it's fine. If it's a bit there, it's fine. And then you are absolutely fine. So before we go to the next level, let's take a moment and allow Rav Gissinger, hopefully, to calm the anxiety in the room a little bit. And let's just read two quick paragraphs. I'll read it quickly. Pesach Zman Chayr is quickly approaching. We are all anxiously and impatiently awaiting its arrival. After all, the Seder night in all its glory, the entire family, father, mother, children, sitting around the lavishly laden table, discussing in depth the very foundation of our Amunah, Yitzias Mitzrayim. Our anticipation grows stronger with each and every passing day. It's unbearable. We can no longer wait. Or can we? I must sadly admit that I've heard people say, Pesach's unbearable. It's too hard. Not worth the work. If my previous description of the Seder doesn't seem to match yours, perhaps you're doing something wrong. I must elaborate a bit, and I'm going to quickly quote and draw from the writings of Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg. I actually have his letter over here. Obviously, the primary problem is the pre-Pesach cleaning and more cleaning. Rav Gissinger, now this was many years ago, and I don't think it's gotten better. I mean, just gotten better that people say, why clean? I'm just going away. So let's just spend 50 grand that I don't have instead of cleaning, which is not such a big deal. But says Rav Gissinger, the average housewife does 75% more cleaning required than halacha. I don't know. After learning a little bit, I think it's more than 75%. I think 75, he was being like a little bit liberal. He didn't want to get lynched. He was in Lakewood after all, But I think it's a much higher level. Spring cleaning should be done after Pesach. That's what Gissinger writes. The following items need not be washed. Okay, so now we're going to have a list of that which we should take from the Pesach cleaning list to the when I have time deal with list. Windows, walls, carpets, ceilings, doors, doorknobs, linens, bedspreads, curtain towels. That's two different items. Fresh dish towels. If you sell your chametz, pots, pans, dishes, flour, appliances, mixer, grinder, toaster, microwave, all toys being put away for Pesach do not have to be cleaned. Okay, we just took care of, like, I don't know, our entire house. The closet and room where chametz utensils are being locked up, so every cabinet that you're just going to mark that you're not going to use it does not need to be cleaned. Take a quick assessment of the approximate amount of chametz present, so you can list it as being sold, which again, when it comes to mechira, we're going to talk about. Some rabbanim require you to write down more, some require you to write down less. Okay, and that is how one should clean. So now if we start thinking about what we need to do, we start realizing it's really not that much. And he writes, and he then goes into, I know there's minhagim, Yisrael Kedeshimim, but you have to be careful. Women are obligated all the mitzvahs of Seder. And when I started, it wasn't my own line, it was his line. Now, with that being said, let's continue, because there are certain areas, and maybe this is also important, that I think sometimes we're going to focus on that which we don't have to focus, and then that which we maybe should be focusing, we're not focusing on. And that's a very important thing. And that's now already bordering on an actual issue in halacha. You're going to be sitting there scrubbing, cleaning, and doing everything, but then, I don't know, maybe your benchers that you bring to the table all year long, and like, oh, this crazy chumrah, I have to get new benchers for Pesach. What? I'm not eating the bencher. I don't have to look at them. Now, that's a serious problem. What's the problem? What's the problem? 1 second. I just said anything which is smaller than a kazayas, it's matun of ksas, you don't have to worry about it. It's a little bit dirty, right? Correct. But you can't eat it. So you're not eating your bencher, right? Agreed. So what happens? You take your bencher and you open it on top of your plate to make Kiddush. And what just happened? Now that little crumb fell on your plate. On Pesach, there's no bittul. And this is the reason why things should and are very stringent. Nothing, meaning normative halacha, bittul and shishim 60 times. Something called bittul b'shish on wine. Maybe something called bittul b'meya. On Pesach, things are never batal, which means the tiniest bit of chametz falls into the largest item, and it is also, not only is it also, it's an iser da'araisa, probably. D'araisa d'rabbanan, okay, let's not get stuck on that, but it's also. It's also. So therefore, something like that, that's real. That's very real, which from there we learn a very important rule. Anything that's going to come to your table, that you have to be very careful about. So even though we said toys and children's toys, there's no reason to be sitting there scrubbing and dumping all the toys in the bathtub with a bucket of bleach, which, by the way, very dangerous. Why is it dangerous? Because when little 3-year-old sees the toys in the bath with the bleach, when you go turn around, God forbid, little 3-year-old dives in, takes a little drink. Bleach actually is very dangerous. And it sounds comical when we repeat it in such a setting, but then you read the news, you're like, oh, maybe someone should have listened. Rahman al-Islam. But if the child brings the toy to the table, this is not a chinuch class. We're not getting involved whether toys should or should not be at the table. Sufficient to say, certainly the child should not be tarred and feathered for the toy being at the table, even on Pesach. No tar and feathering children for toys at the table. Respectfully or not, maybe not at the table. Okay, different discussion. We'll just repeat the story. Was it a Brisker Rav? Who was it? I think it was a Brisker Rav. That a child climbed on the table in front of the Brisker Rav. Parent was there, grabbed the child down. Oy vey, all embarrassed for the Brisker Rav. Brisker Rav says, what's the problem? Child's on the table. Brisker Rav said, I've never seen an adult climbing on tables. There's no reason that we need to be mechanich. I know, Ramaylich's on tables. It's not because as a kid, Ramaylich was on the table. It's not what happened, okay? That was a different story. But Brisker Rav said, we don't need to be mechanich, something that on its own will end. The kid on its own, you're not going to find the 10th grader showing up to a meal at his friend's house, and they say, oh, here's your seat. He says, great, and he jumps on the table and sits down. It's never happened. So now I understand. You might have your dishes that are going to break, and you might have the shviger that's going to be upset that the kid's climbing on the table and all the issues. Fine, you could take the kid down, but just, when it comes to certain areas of chinuch, let's just it actually makes sense. Okay, I hear, we don't need to break things, fine, okay. But if the toys come to the table, so then, yes, if there is chametz potentially on the toy, which, by the way, certainly possible. No, my kids never take any food out of the kitchen. Okay, guess what? All the Mishloach Manos, you didn't know where they are. Their kid has just stashed them with his toys in his toy bin, and you'll find them when you come cleaning. Oh my, look at that. You got everything going on in here. So that is something that one should be cognizant of. So, and if you didn't clean the toy, okay, great. So just don't put it on the table. Be careful around food in the kitchen, in the fridge. In the fridge, do I have to start wiping down? Everyone asks. Do I have to line my fridge shelves? Do I have to line them? Are they clean? Yeah. So what are you lining them for? You never know. It might be a spill. Okay. So the answer is, of course, you don't have to line them. You want to line them? Beautiful. Excellent. It looks like the greatest answer. It looks like Pesach, Rabbi. Okay. For you, Pesach looks like that is fine. It only looks like Pesach with the silver counters and the thing in the fridge. Okay, if that's what Pesach is, it's fine, but you don't have to. However, that doesn't mean you should necessarily take matzah open and put it on your fridge shelf, because maybe there is something there. Meaning there is a level of brain. Now, someone might say, okay, Rabbi, I don't want to have to use my brain for 8 days. So therefore, for 8 months, I'm going to clean. So therefore, 8 days, I don't have to use my brain. That's perfectly fine. But in proximity of food, ultimate care has to be taken, which is the reason why, Mirta Shem, when we talk about kashering, there is a reason why there are extra chumras. You know, in the world of cleaning, we keep on talking about kulas. We're going to talk about kashering, and yeah, maybe it actually does make sense when they say that the area above your oven should be covered. What does it have to be covered for? I don't know. Well, it depends how everyone cooks, but there are generally people that things are steaming up, and maybe it's even dripping down. So you're going to say it never in the history of the world. Okay, it has happened. It has happened, and it's been seen. So if you don't cook that way, it might be a different story, but it's not a crazy thing. Because when it comes to areas of actual food, one has to be very, very careful about. So let's give a few examples over here. First of all, just to give one more dot of background, when it comes to this smaller than a kazayis, that we said if it's a mitun of ksas is not a problem, just to understand literally one line of a very complicated sugya, the reason really is that min ha'Torah, we do bittul, which means when we say in Erev Pesach everything is batal, that means it's batal. It means on the biblical level, whatever you have in your house is not yours, and you don't have to worry about anything. There's a dirabanan. The Rabbanan came along and said, wait, you're mevatel it, but you might come to eat it. That concern is a derabanan concern, which is either on larger than a kazayis or smaller than a kazayis, which is not dirty. Once something is smaller than a kazayis and is dirty, then it is a problem. So now going back to your question, you were talking about the couches. Yes, you certainly do have to look behind the couch. You certainly have to make sure there's nothing there. But if the couch is never moved, or let's say the oven, you're never pulling out the oven on Pesach, I don't know necessarily if you can't get there, so you want to spray a little bit to be machmir. You could, but anything more than that, you don't have to be worried about. So let's give a quick list over here. Quick list. So just a few simple items. Items under the fridge in areas where the floor is dirty, which I know doesn't exist anywhere in the world. Behind the oven, something in your trousers, in your pants. You have cookies, little kids. Do you have to start going through all their pockets? So the answer is, have you ever washed the pants? I hope the answer is yes. So once they are washed, anything in those pockets is certainly less than a kazayis and mitun of ksas. Now you're going to say, what do you mean? Maybe my son took a full Nature Valley bar and okay, that level, yes, you do have to be careful about. But things in proximity of food, then yes, you have to be careful. So we'll conclude with just a few of the items. Comes to the mixer. So if Kissinger just taught us that the mixer, you're not using the mixer on Pesach, so just put it away. Just put it away. What's the problem? You want to clean it? Okay, you spray it a little bit. You don't have to do much else. Your pants, now this is a good one. You should make sure that your pockets don't have food in them. If you put food in your pockets, you should. Why? Because that's the whole concern. If you have a lolly, if you have a taffy, okay, we can get involved. Is it really chametz or not? Okay, that's not lechatchila. But you should make sure, if someone has their talis bag, they throw candies in there for the kids. That certainly is something, things with wrappers, that certainly is something that one should be careful of. And the areas that are housing your Pesach dishes, I think we basically covered the basics of cleaning for Pesach. And B'siyat Shemaya, we'll well, hopefully with the right mindset, we won't have the issues like Rav Gissinger taught us going into Pesach with this horrible mindset. And we'll conclude with the words of the Yerushalmi, actually. There's Yerushalmi that says one should be careful, and the Rokeach quotes in the Berhetiv, one should never say Pesach is such a burden, which I think is probably the most common refrain that is said from now until Pesach. Pesach is so difficult, Pesach is so hard, Pesach is so this. Says the Yerushalmi, such a person is like the Rasha in the Haggadah. Sounds pretty extreme. It's true the Chok Yaakov says it means the mitzvahs and not the actual yontif itself. However, hopefully if we have a little bit of a different mindset, how we're cleaning for Pesach, B'siyat Shemaya, we should actually be able to look forward and thereby have a true Zman Cheruseinu Shkoyach.